It's good to chat with you. First of all, yeah, what is the glue in Perfetti that holds all its leaders together? Mr. Suneja has been with the company for long, and he's now the global CEO. You've been with the company for such a long time and in various markets, and now India is such a big market for you and a pioneering market. What's it about Perfetti Van Melle which retains leaders and grooms leaders?
I can't speak for Mr. Suneja. He's a global CEO, but मैंने तो बहुत कोशिश करी नौकरी ढूंढने की. No, okay. On a more serious note, one of the things, and I was telling Gaurav yesterday evening that when I moved to Perfetti, this is '99, and by 2002 we were kind of making very cool ads. And as a young person coming into marketing, it was really happening place to be. We were meeting the agency stalwarts. Every ad we kind of churned out at the time, and hopefully now was talked about. So it was a really nice place to be. And the only job I really wanted when I was in Perfetti was the head of marketing job. After that, all of that happened, but it was the one I really craved for. So I think I stayed back in Perfetti for that reason. There were other assignments which happened in the middle, smaller assignments which kept me engaged. But yeah, that's primarily the reason why. And we of course, I have a daughter, and it was always a high exit barrier to leave Perfetti. There were factory visits for friends. I was always a cool uncle, so it all added to the whole allure of being in Perfetti.
Fantastic. Nikhil, we remember some of those ads in communication. I personally remember them, and they were very engaging, and they got your attention. Whether you were chewing gum or not, that's another story, but it definitely got your attention and stayed in your mind. Our session is about digital first, but consumer first always. The first word is missing, but at the core of your business and the core of your communication and marketing, how do you ensure that?
Yeah, I've spoken about this earlier. I think for us, it's very, it's important to first understand who the consumer and what she is doing when she's buying confectionery, right? So very often we are asked the question whether UPI impacted our business, and there's an explanation which comes in there which basically says, this is a girl who's coming back from school with 5 rupees, 10 rupees in her pocket, and she's basically choosing what to buy. Right? And we have to be relevant in that moment for her. Right? So, it's a highly impulse category. It's not that she's, much as we would like, she's not searching for a specific brand. She has to see within the shop what she wants to buy. And our sales team first has the onerous task of putting the brands in place. And then, of course, marketing has to play a role where the brand is top of mind in that moment. Right? It's not a very considered decision. Sometimes she changes her mind when she finds something fancier in the shop. And we've always therefore believed that with the kinds of brands we support, which are 4 or 5 of them, and the media monies that we have, that we really create advertising which is enduring, which appeals, and which is talked about. And that's why, I also get a supplementary question on this as to why we do always long form advertising, and when our ACDs are much higher than other creatives. It's only to tell that story in the first place, and then we do digital
various
around
versions,
and so on.
shorter version.
So that's where we are at. We're always thinking in terms of, kind of telling an engaging story the way we would like to tell it, and then, take it from there to our digital initiatives and so on.
Again, your category is, I'm not very well versed with what is the consumption age-wise of the product, but my understanding is that the Gen Zs are a big part of consumption. Millennials are also a big part of your consumers. Give us a sense of what is the kind of consumers you have, and what are you doing to be able to keep the brand love alive amongst the various segments and sub-segments?
No, actually, our consumers are children. There's no hiding behind the fact that we always do aspirational advertising for brands like Mentos and Chupa. But from a consumption perspective, a large part of our consumption is children. Right? We're trying to upgrade price point. We're trying to go, and I was talking to Prashant, and he's saying premiumization mein kya ho raha? And I was saying 5 rupees is premiumization for us. 10 rupees is premiumization for us. We have a Mentos gum pocket bottle which sells at 30 rupees, small bottle, a bigger bottle at 100. the packs, those packs are relatively small for us. Yeah. We're still 95% of our business comes from general trade, despite all of the talk around quick commerce, e-commerce, modern trade. And so I've seen this for the last 15 years. Those percentages haven't changed for us. Right? So from a consumer perspective, children, yeah. From an advertising, targeting perspective, aspirational, young adults, so that children also see that the consumption is happening there. But we're really, really focused on our smaller audience.
Now, because of all these young adults or children, as I may call them, are digital first.
Yeah.
They are digital natives. They were born in an era where they have mobile phones, they have access to information, they have access to social media, access to OTT. So the communication, by definition, has to be digital first, mobile first, right? At least that's how conventional thing. Give us a sense of how do you approach it?
Well, like I said, core to our advertising philosophy and central to it is the idea behind the brand, right? And I've now come back to India like 2 years back, so things have kind of changed. But we're still looking at, our ad agencies, the creative partners, to come back with the core creative idea first, right? Then, there's a whole IMC around it. Then we go and see what we can do on the digital side of things. So I'm sorry to be pushing back on the digital first perspective, and I know that's the theme, but we still haven't deviated from the fact that we still want...
IMC, for those of you who is integrated marketing communication, if you've forgotten that term, but...
Yeah, even I had to ask that question 3 months back, so it's totally fine. Yeah. And then, then we come up with other ideas, which kind of propagate the campaign for us. Surely digital is a big part of our whole piece, but it's not standalone. It's for our category. I understand that some other categories, that may be the case. But even with our recent campaigns on Center Fresh, for example, we've done the whole overthinking campaign around it. The first idea was, and the creative insight was that we think about things a lot, right? And that got converted into a TVC, and then I think Gaurav and I think Gunjan's in the audience, they kind of
related to it.
They did stuff around it, the overthinking report came out, and we did a lot of surround around it. But not without first cracking the first creative idea.
Now, again, you're a business leader. Of course, you're a CMO, grow into a business role. And I keep saying that people like Prashant, you will always think brand first and then business follows, because brand is the real, of course, distribution has to follow, communication has to follow. But give us a sense of the larger trends you are seeing in the consumer space, which give you segues for growth.
Well, one of the things, from a consumer and a media consumption perspective, it's self-serving, but we definitely see, space for the long format. Again, like I said, it's self-serving, but my sense is that, people are...
No, it's actually true.
Yeah.
Like there is this thing that, young people in India are not reading. Do you know how many books young people are buying? The number of books being sold. Of course, there's a statistics which says out of every 100 books, only 10 are read. The rest are for gifting, or they lie around in your library or wherever you stock books. So there are lots of myths, but I actually believe that long form, both in journalism, in video content, is actually here to survive and thrive. And it goes with anything that is in abundance works, but anything that is in scarcity also works. So, long form is there to stay.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things which I'm very passionate about is also talking about, real insight. I think lots of times marketers fall into the trap of, let's say, a media vehicle or an idea, but the insight's kind of missing, and they feel that, doing something as a first idea is great, but without the insight, I feel the idea doesn't land as well many times, and this is a discussion we've often had in our marketing teams. So we'd like to go back and think about that a little bit. And you said, we're now grey-haired marketeers at one point in time, and now Prashant and I on the general management side of things, and we think brand first, but we also start thinking business, right?
Sure.
And when we kind of come back and look at marketing from a more business perspective lens, I think there are some things in which we also want to course correct in our marketing teams and the way we do our work, right? So product development is critical. You know, thinking about productivity and margins and distribution is important, right?
And the cost of acquisition.
Absolutely.
Because for your is a very price sensitive, because the price points are such. So how much you're spending on acquisition of, say, new customers, I think in every category it's important, possibly more important in your...
It's really important. It's really important to make some hard choices for marketers. You know, when you go and visit a factory with a marketer and they see the kind of complexity we are adding by saying, एक लॉलीपॉप में 4 फ्लेवर डाल दो, you know, तो 4 फ्लेवर पहले बनते हैं, फिर वो अलग से पैक होते हैं, उसकी कॉस्ट बढ़ती है. You know, whether the consumer is actually going and making a choice and saying, नहीं मुझे स्ट्रॉबेरी नहीं, मुझे तो ब्लैक करंट ही खाना है. Some of these things are, you know, live in marketers' minds, and I think there's a lot of need for all of us to kind of go back and course correct, because ultimately we are catering to the consumer, but does she really want a black currant flavor or a kiwi mango flavor or a jackfruit
and does
flavor?
it make a business sense?
Does it make a business sense also, yeah? So, you know, it looks great on the pack, incidentally.
You know, Nikhil, I must ask, I know it's a digital first mobile. This is a question me and a friend of mine, he's been working with us for 12 years, he's our president. Right now he's on a break in the US, but Jan, he joins back, he's been an entrepreneur. Will the CMO role exist like the way it is? You've seen the CMO role, now you're a managing director of a company, you run a business. Is the CMO role going to survive what it is today in the next 3 to 6 years?
Yeah, I'm being a marketing director myself. I think it's going to survive. It's the two questions.
In the shape.
Yeah, I mean, if the CMO role is a communication-led role, it'll survive. If the CMO role is a business-first role, then the CMO needs to evolve. And you can choose to be either, right? So I think, again, I've spoken about this earlier, but if you're looking for a CMO who's very focused on content, you know, very focused on delivering consumer at all times, and there is a role for that, there's no harm in it.
There is a need for that.
Yeah, absolutely, there's room for that. But there are a certain group of CMOs who are thinking end-to-end, you know, understand manufacturing, understand sales. I think that CMO role is possibly going to add more value in the future for organizations, because lots of CMOs also aspire to
become CEOs.
General management or board, and I think that's where people need to make a distinction and decide where they want to go. Yeah, but I think marketing is going to be relevant for some time.
And another thing is about, Prashant talked about, he showed us the communication across the brands. He's worked, Unilever and Mondelez and of course Kellogg's. Communication has a big role to play in building brand love. But you clearly talked about product, you talked about distribution, you talked about sales and hence sales channels. Give a sense of what are you thinking currently in your job as the managing director of such an iconic brand, you know, in India, where everything is growing, but also the competition is huge. New products are coming in, new brands are being built in the last 6 years. Look at Catch, building a new brand. I mean, it came from nowhere, as in the DS group, you know, the brand I'm referring to.
Absolutely. Pulse,
Pulse, it came and it's become a 600 crores or 1,000 crore brand?
Close to 1,000 crores.
1,000 crores now, right? So this immense competition, and you don't know what will come and suddenly become the flavor of the year. So how are you approaching that? What are you doing to develop new products, new ideas?
I mean, the first part of your question, I think, is what keeps us all busy. I mean, we've just dealt with GST, which is a big one to handle, right? And obviously, cost of production is important for us to understand. You know, we're talking about the new labor codes coming in. You know, so there is that whole area of work which is
compliance.
Important. compliances and, you know, and so on, but it adds cost. Right?
And it's business
first of all,
impact.
yeah, I mean, so the first hat I wear is how do you manage those costs at sticky price points and make sure that you still sell the 1 rupee, 5 rupee, 10 rupee price point candies, right? As far as innovation is concerned, you know, that's our lifeblood. So we're a 30% share company. You know, it's a highly fragmented market. I don't lose sleep over somebody else having a success. Quite honestly, it does us, as an industry, it does a lot of good for us. But I'm always thinking what the consumer would want. Yeah, and jellies, for example, is a big new category for us. It's growing. A lot of the players are coming into fortified jellies, you know, mothers giving, say, gummy bears to children. So there's lots of work happening there. The sour candy is a big cohort. We work in that space and we continuously innovate. So our hope is that, you know, the next big innovation will come from PVM. At least we have our fingers in many pies. You know, we're working on lollipops, we're working on candies, we're working on gums. We're not working on any adjacent categories, so there is no attention diverted from, you know, sugar
Focus.
confectionery. Yeah, absolutely.
And you made this point earlier that, you know, you alluded that so many flavors, but the consumer is really adopting those. Your sales may be coming from one flavor or two flavors at best. So I get that point. Now, in every business, especially food category, India is a land of food, flavors, variations. There can be lots of product ideas and flavors that can come from the Indianness and Indian culture. And food is very, very region, state specific. Give us a sense of what are the Indian flavors you are taking to launch new products, because that's another big, in every product category in food, you know, Indian, I mean, my friends from MDI launched paper boat, you know, and, you know, look at, I mean, they've gone to a certain success, maybe it can be bigger. Look at what has happened with fox nuts, you know, makhana, I mean, I can give you, these are all Indianness of food. So give us a sense of what are you doing to be able to launch more flavors which are Indian?
Before I answer that, I mean, if you go to a modern trade aisle and if you look at a, you know, any sugar, food, confectionery, you will see 80% strawberry. So as a consumer, हमको लगता है that, you know, we can innovate with an elaichi flavor, cardamom, you know, Indian, all of that. But essentially, the consumer, after 15, 20 years of experimenting flavor, is going back to a single flavor. Mango logically should be the next big Indian flavor, but you like a different mango, I like a different mango, the audience, everybody.
I like all mangoes. Me and my daughter love all mangoes.
But the thing is that, you know, that one common denominator of mango is not available in India, right? So किसी को सफेदा पसंद है, किसी को लंगड़ा पसंद है, कोई अल्फांसो, हाँ, ये बॉम्बे वाले अल्फांसो करते रहते हैं, correct? So we are, in terms of Indian flavors, we are looking at this masala sour variety. I mean, kurkure is a big success, you know. So we're looking at that space. A lot of the local players are experimenting with coconut and elaichi, but they're remaining very, very marginalized. I think mass flavors. Take Center Fresh, for example. It's a sweet blue peppermint, you know, flavor. It's been mass accepted, but anytime we try and experiment with a more intense flavor, saying now the Indian consumer's evolved and, you know, she wants stronger cooling, but from a big scheme of things, it remains a small pack for us, and which is why I bring the point of marketeers. I know they're wedded to innovation, you know, and there's a lot of effort which goes into launching a new flavor, but the returns don't come as much as we would like. I mean, we are here with already established flavors, and the whole joy for us is to increase distribution, you know, to take sales up and not do innovation just for the sake of innovation.
And, you know, Nikhil, how do you learn from other categories? How do you bring insights from related categories, get inspiration, and in some way ask the right questions? We are in an era of AI. AI is about the right prompts. If you ask the right questions, there's a good chance you'll get what you should be.
No, I mean, you know, I was again speaking to Prashant. We're always seeing Cadbury's in terms of distribution, you know, how they're distributing their 10 rupee chocolates and why our 5 rupee brands cannot go to that level, right? We're always inspired by great work coming out of other, you know, other categories, advertising or otherwise, in terms of innovation and how they built it up. So that's always important for us to see, and, you know, we've lots of our ad agencies also keep sharing examples of good creative work. So that's something which is ongoing for us at all times.
And Nikhil, the cost of media is going up.
Yeah.
Let's take the cost of cricket.
Yeah.
It's become prohibitive for brands. Maybe there is ROI. Clearly, there is some value. Cricket is a religion in India. But what is your point of view on the rising cost of, cricket content? I mean, they've become astronomical because the cost is being dictated by the acquisition price of the content and not necessarily the unit economics that should work for the brand.
I mean, we've always been big believers in cricket, right? But it's come to a point where, we simply with 6 brands to support with our kind of media monies, we don't have the ability anymore. So it's meteoric to see the rise in popularity. But for us, it's no longer relevant. And I think if you look at advertisers on IPL, I think even organized players sometimes find it difficult. You have the new startups, so you have Reliance.
It's funded money that for a year or
exactly.
two kind of sustains that kind of spends, and then a new player comes in, does that because it's aspirational.
Absolutely. I mean, it's, again, like I said, if we had the opportunity and if there were ever a time when we could afford it, we would certainly, it makes a lot of sense. I still believe that, it's visibility, you get it one shot, you get your brand up and running, but right now it's impossible to advertise on cricket.
Now, since you talked about integrated marketing communication, experiential has grown, especially the gig economy. And you take any B2C, B2B segment, you take anything, the experiential economy and the experiential touch points have grown. When you're outdoor, when you're at events, sometimes you may have consumption of various products, okay? Is that something you look at very seriously in terms of the experiential economy?
Absolutely, sir. आपने Fox Candy रखी हुई है, Mentos नहीं रखा हुआ. पहली चीज़ आके मैंने देखी कि
ठीक है, अगली बार I will tell the hotel. I'll tell the hotel.
I hope nobody from Nestle is here, but yeah, I mean, you should have, I think, definitely Mentos over Fox. Yeah, we do.
We should have thought about that, okay, that you are coming, but anyway, next time.
No problem. Yeah, we do. It's just
some people would be happy and they will tell us to call a liquor brand in the afternoon so that we can display their products, only display. But on a serious note, go on.
No, I don't have a very profound point to make here, but it's basically to say that from a cost per contact or cost per touch point, it is an expensive one to do. And remember that we are present in close to 6 million outlets. From a touch point perspective, where the touch and feel of the candy is right there. With due respect to this audience, this is not the audience we're really wanting to go after. We would love for all of them to buy Chupa, but the real audience for me is in the villages, in the small towns where 1 rupee, 5 rupees still make a relevant, a price point for those people. But you're right. I mean, whenever we do launch a new product, which is high value packs, we try and do some sampling. We try and do it through various means. The marketing team always comes up with certain ideas to kind of proliferate it through festivals and so on and so forth.
In the last 5 years, health and wellness has become a very big issue for food brands, for nutrition brands, and for brands who enter your body, so to say, right? There is an anti-sugar thing, or at least watch sugar. There's about also what's in the product. How is a brand like a house of brands, so to say, like yours, approaching this wave of well-being and wellness and being conscious on what you put inside your body?
It's really important for us to think in terms of low sugar products going forward. But हमारे में there's one significant advantage which we have is that we are still bite-sized in India, right? So we're not the child who's buying a product still is not buying a 60-gram bag, right? So अगर आप 3 ग्राम की कैंडी खाओगे तो उसमें 3 ग्राम से ऊपर तो चीनी नहीं हो सकती है, so 2 ग्राम, and it's not hidden sugar. It's also a person who's having a candy knows that she's having sugar. It's not it's not sometimes like the beverages, for example, or sauces or bread. It doesn't absolve us from this sugar, and therefore we are constantly looking at innovating with low sugar products. The second part of your question is, on basically saying what we are doing with the trend. Yeah? And there I think we are kind of at a little bit of a crossroads, because none of the brands that we have right now have the ability to carry a health and wellness.
With fun brands.
Yeah, fun brands. अब वो कितना भी मैं बोलूँ कि Alpenliebe के अंदर एक healthy candy आ गई है, but it's milk and sugar. We've advertised it like that, so it's not something which is easy to straddle. If you want to do health and wellness in India, we'll have to get another brand.
Sure.
Yeah, and which
Thank
will
you for
mean
being candid.
which will mean that it will take some of the monies out of the existing brands that we want to push. So it's a conundrum. It's not an easy one for us.
It's a
to
trade-off.
solve. It's a trade-off, and I hope Gunjan's now in the audience. But he's really pushing. He's the head of marketing. He's really pushing for us to get started on that journey, and hopefully we can.
I want to end by asking my last question.
Anji.
Give us some data or some examples that are very antithesis to our thinking, or at least when you discovered them through insights, you said, "Oh, I didn't know this." When we are talking of the audience that you kind of cater to.
Purely from an advertising perspective, I think maybe it's not to the point to what you're saying, but from a Perfetti advertising perspective, if you look at some of the things that we do, which go against the grain of conventional thinking, right? So, जैसे हमारे ads में we try and make it a point not to show the pack in the beginning. If you talk to any marketer, वो बोलेगा अरे 5 सेकंड में ad नहीं दिखा आपका. There is no product window which is super sexy. If you look at the Center Shock ad many years back, वो बार-बार अपने दुकान से खोल के अपनी कैंची से काट रहा है bubble gum को, which people would intuitively feel is unhygienic, and why would. But my sense is that we give the consumer too much of. She's not rationally thinking at all times. So जब वो advertising consumption कर रहे हैं, they're looking to be entertained in my mind, right? And therefore, some of the things.
Authentic storytelling is important.
Yes, exactly. So obviously, if you make an ad where every 5th second the brand comes, then it's kind of letting go of a little bit of a suspense.
Sure.
A little bit of a build-up.
And the reason we remember that communication even after maybe 20 years is because of the storytelling and honesty of that.
Absolutely. I mean, Happydent is a commercial. Lots of people talk about it. वो 84th second में आता है brand, but it never really. But conventional wisdom, if you look at how brands grow, or if you look at Byron Sharp and all of these guys, they're very specific about data and saying, in fact, as you mentioned, I was in Vietnam, and my boss who was there, he was a big believer of Byron Sharp and how brands grow, and a lot of the stuff is valid. When we came back and I made the Happydent, we made the Happydent commercial, the recent one with McCann and Prasoon. He called me to say, "Ki arey, tu kuch nahi sikha bahar aake." But some of the things are, to my mind, I mean, it's not all science, right? So I think that's,
some has to be gut feel and
you have
keeping in the changing times.
Yeah, you have to back yourselves, and also I must say in this forum that because we sell 1 rupee and 5 rupee, we can afford to be a little bit frivolous. And take these risks. I wonder if I would say the same thing if it was high-end marketing for me. But yeah, the advantage is that we can fail fast, fail cheap, do things differently. But we have to take a risk every time we advertise. We have to go out. Yeah.
And not taking is a risk itself. Not taking a risk sounds cliche, but it's true. If you don't take a risk, it's a risk itself. You will be not relevant in the future. We have Mr. Nikhil Sharma here. He's a Virgo. I know. You're 16 September born, right?
16 September, yes.
You can wish him, send him Cadbury's or
बस
Kellogg's pack.
बस साल मत बताइए, बाकी सब
नहीं, साल तो पता लग जाता है कौन से साल में आप के लिंक्डइन में देखेंगे कौन से साल आप ग्रेजुएट हुए हैं तो उससे पता लग. We can take 1 or 2 questions for Mr. Sharma. Any question? And please give Mr. Sharma a big round of applause, and thank you for raising the conversation beyond marketing and beyond brands, and thank you so much.